For observational drawing number 2, we're going to use things from a pencil case or from a desk if you have one at home, and choose 3 to 5 things that you're going to draw the contour drawing, draw the outside of each shape. Take your time, erase, check the measurements, how big they are on the page. Choose things that you can draw life size that will fit onto your paper. After you sketch everything out, erase everything lightly so that you can still see the lines, but they won't be too dark. And then you're going to choose which medium you will use to add color. You're going to try to match the color the best that you can. You might not have all of the right colors, but try to get it as close as you can. Again, I'm using watercolor and I'm layering. So for the scissors and the eraser, I just used a little bit of tiny touch of black and lots of water to make some gray. And then I used a bit of tissue to dab out on the eraser so I could take some of that paint away and make it look just more like a dirty white eraser. In the photo on the left, or the objects on the left, you can see the dark shadow on the right side of the objects, but there's a lighter shadow on the left side. It's not so apparent in the video. If you look at the bottom of the pen, the pink pen, you can see a light shadow to the left. So I've painted that in, a light gray shadow on the left, a darker gray shadow on the right of the objects. And I used a hairdryer to speed up the drying process. In the last example, I used watercolor. And in this example, I'm going to use just pencil and maybe a black marker. And I'm not going to use any color this time. So if you don't have any color at home, you can see how it still can look really awesome, even if you don't have color. So I'm also doing this in real time. The other one was time lapse, so that I can just explain a few things, maybe some tips and tricks. Take your pen or pencil, slide it across, making an imaginary line so you can see where the top of your object is, and the same for the bottom. I'm going to take the tip, imaginary line, and it's about right here, I think, maybe right here. And then I'm just going to slowly take my time and draw the lines that I see. I see this coming out just a little tiny bit to about here. Then it goes straight down. Then it comes out a little bit, straight down again, back in. And then it tapers out. Sorry, it tapers in. So it's wide here. And by the time I get to the end, it's quite narrow. So my eye is going to get, as I come down, I'm going to look at this dot where I'm supposed to end and know that that line is coming in all the way. Come over just a little bit, and then I'm going to start back at the top. Tapered out. I went too far. Tapered out, straight down, out, back in, and then I'm going to taper down to the last bit. Once I've done that contour drawing, the outside of the drawing, I can go in and do some details. So there's this kind of line there. And then this has kind of angles on it. And then that goes that way. Then there's a gold line here, and then there's some lettering, but I'm not going to include that. And there's a real shine here for me, so I'm just going to maybe lightly draw where that shine is so that I can see if I'm going to use that when I'm doing the shading. The second object, this is where now the tip that I think might be the most important for you, is the spacing in between. When I used scissors, it was more difficult because I had to see the spacing between the bottom and the spacing between the top, so that you're just making sure you can just eyeball it. You can use your fingers to measure how big is it and move it over. That's why we're starting with things that we're drawing at life size so we can measure it. Use your ruler if you want to. Use your fingers to decide how long it's going to be and how far apart they are. So where they are at the closest is right here, which I'll bring that right about here. That's where they are the closest. I just have a tiny little dot to remind myself. That's where it is the closest, and then it will taper up. Also, I'm going to bring this across and draw my line here and check, am I the right distance? I think I might just be a little like that. And then the bottom will be about a little bit farther up than that, right about here. And then I can do my drawing. So I've got a curve at the top to make this look like it's 3D. Curves at the top to make it look 3D, and all of my lines on the pen are all curved. None of them go straight across. Even this one is kind of an angled line. But the curves should all be rounded. So the curve at the bottom, curve at the top. So curve at the top. And then it ends right about this gold part, and it tapered out a little bit. And then I'm going to do a round line, a curved line, not round, sorry. Then I'm coming back, it's tapering in just a little bit. And then I can see a whole bunch of these curved lines. So I'm just going to go down a little bit more. And I think all of these curved lines in here. Oh, and that's what we're not supposed to do. We're not supposed to get into the detail until after, but that's okay. I'm reminding myself. Then I'm going to come over to the widest part where I measured. So it stays a little wide for a little bit, then it tapers in. Curved line up for this little bit. And then a curved line again. Coming out from my widest spot is right about here. And then tapering in. And this needs to come down a little bit, I think. And it looks a little bit wonky. But that's okay. I'm going to leave that for now. It gets a little bit crooked. It's okay. And last but not least, my pencil. So again, checking where it lands. It's right about here. And it also has a curve at the top, even though it's just an eraser. And the point at the bottom is about here. And I'm going to start down here with this pencil lead. Tapers out. Little kind of jaggedy lines. Goes straight up. My clip is in the way, so I'm going to move that up here. Coming straight down, another straight line for a little bit, then it tapers in. Comes straight down. Curved line where the pencil starts. And curved line again. Now, when you're drawing, move your paper around. I'm not moving my paper because I don't want it to get out of the camera, but normally most people can draw a straight line one way better than the other. My straightest line, I can go from left to right, and I can be pretty straight. When I'm coming from top to bottom, you noticed I was quite crooked there. So turn your page and make it so that it works for you. You're not filming right now, so you don't need to keep it straight up and down. And I feel like this needs to be a little bit wider. So now I'm going to do my little adjustments so that I can check to see what can I see. I can see a little bit of the edge of that eraser part. And for my brush pen, I can see the brush about right here. And I think that's it. So I mentioned in the other video that my tip was to, sorry, I have a hard time talking and drawing at the same time. My tip was to take an eraser. I have what's called a kneaded eraser, so you knead it to clean it, but you could use this eraser as well. Just make sure that if it's dirty, that you clean it somewhere so you don't get it on your nice drawing. I'm just going to use the cleanest edge, and I'm going to put it on its side, and I'm going to erase most of it so that I can still see what's left, so I can ink it up. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use a fine line marker, and I'm just going to trace my lines and make any adjustments I see as I go. I'm also going to see if there's any detail that I missed. And just tracing over the lines. And I'm not being perfect. I keep saying draw what you see, measure. And that's the point. We want it to look like the object we're drawing. But obviously I know that none of us are going to be perfect. It's not going to be a photograph. Otherwise we would be doing photography class. And that little wobble there, there's nothing I can do about that. It's there now. And that's okay. And my pencil isn't coming off everywhere, but I'll deal with it. And I should have waited a little moment there for that to dry. So what you can do now is you can leave it just like that. Or you can add some shading. So the shading will help it look more 3D. And you can do that with a pencil, you can do it with your marker, or you can do it with a paintbrush with some gray paint. And I was just about to do that, but I said I would just use pencil and ink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil, and on the right side of everything, I am going to just do some light shading to show the shadow shapes. And I'm following the contour, and the shadow will be the same thickness all the way along. And you notice it comes out where the pen comes out. And the same shadow over here. I'm doing this quite dark. Not hurting my hand with pressure, but it's quite dark. The same thickness all the way down on all of the objects. Now that's the shadow. Now for shading, we can use our pencil again, And to make things look 3D, like they're popping up a little bit off the page, one of the things that we can do is we can shade the edges, add some shading in little curved lines on the left and on the right, and leave the center light. With the center being light, light comes forward. Light will come towards you, and the dark recedes. Dark goes away from you. So when we have dark sides and a light middle, it makes the object look more rounded and more 3D, the illusion of depth. If you use curved lines, if you have this pencil's quite thick, but if you had a thin pencil or if you were using your marker, curved lines help to make it look 3D.
I'm just going to scribble shade across this. Now, these objects are black, so you can paint them black or use black pencil crayon or crayon, but you don't have to. So all you have is a pencil, you can do the whole thing in pencil, and it will still look really cool. Some people don't like to add color to their drawings because they're afraid it will ruin them, and some people don't like to add color because they really like the way black and white drawings look, pen and ink or pencil. Just going to blend in that edge. I have a little bit of white at the very edge, so I'm going to get rid of that. And last but not least, I'll go over here to the pencil, my crooked pencil.
If you want to blend, you can blend with your finger or with a tissue. And if you blend and the center disappears, you can just use an eraser to get that highlight back again. And you can also clean up any edges or any spots that need to get back to the white of the paper. So you can see with the ink, when I used the pen, I made it a little bit of a mess because I didn't let it dry enough. And with my pencil, I drew too dark. So I have to remind myself next time to draw lighter so that I can erase things better. Some of this pencil isn't coming off, but overall, looks pretty great. Best thing I can say to you at the very end like this, as I keep fixing and dabbing and doing, is to walk away, come back with fresh eyes, see if there's any final adjustments you can make, then take your photo, post it in Google Classroom, and put a short comment with your photo to talk about the best part. It's easy to look for what's wrong with it. What's right with it? What did you do well? What do you like? That's what I want to hear about.